In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 most common questions that Five Guys ask in their interviews and help you plan the right answers that will help you get a job working at Five Guys. So let's start with one of the most important questions and a key question in deciding whether you're the right person to hire, and that is simply, what times can you work at Five Guys? And if you don't have a good answer to this, or you make some of the common mistakes, it will make it much harder to get the job. So let's look at the 4 key aspects of the answer and then some good phrases that you can take to your interview. So the first thing is, you want to think about what they actually need. Imagine you just bought a Five Guys store and you own it. When would you want people available to work? When is the store more busy? What sort of answers would people give you if this was your store that would cause you to think, actually, I'm not going to hire them. They don't meet my needs. So you got to always think about what the store actually wants and try and say those things. Then you want to be as flexible as possible. The more flexibility you can offer, the better you look as a potential hire. Then you want to show that you've got a can-do attitude. So if they ask you about, can you do this time, can you do this time, and you're saying yes, that's really going to help you get the job. If they're asking about a time, there is a reason why they are asking. If they are asking about a Thursday afternoon, there is a staffing need at that particular time. If they're asking about evenings, if they're asking about weekends, there is a reason why they have decided to ask those questions. And if you're saying no, it will reduce your chance of getting the job. So you want to be saying yes as much as possible. And then you want to show that you take your job seriously. The worst thing you can do in this question is to start listing all the times that you don't want to work, or giving lots of preferences about, I'd rather work this time and not this time and not this time. It's very negative, and it makes them question whether your job is very high up on your list of priorities or not. Then let's look at some things that are really good to say in a Five Guys interview. The first thing, if you have got really great availability, is just say, I could potentially work the full range of opening hours. That answers all the follow-up questions and shows really the ultimate amount of flexibility. You could also say that you're open to weekend or evening work if that's the case, because they may ask about that. So if you say it already, it's really quite positive and helpful. You could say, I'm usually available to work at short notice. That's something you can volunteer. You would, of course, get paid to do that. So if you're happy to do that, that's something nice to say in an interview. And you could say, I would be open to overtime if needed. So again, you're offering more and you're trying to push and offer as much as you can. One other question that you sometimes ask along with this one is about reliable transportation. So think about how you're going to get to work and make sure you got a good plan that will get you there in time and consistently. Let's now look at another question that's really important to Five Guys, and that is, what do you know about Five Guys? They often expect you to come to the interview knowing a bit about the company, and the more you know, the better. So let's look at how you start answering this. So they want to see that you've got the basic facts, that you know the obvious things, and that will help you get so far. But to really show that you've done your preparation, you ought to know a bit more than that. So you ought to know Five Guys beyond what someone who's just been there 1 or 2 times would know. And then by really having done your research and memorized some key facts, it'll show you've actually prepared for your interview, and that'll be really positive. A lot of people go to interviews with very little preparation, and when they're asked about the company, they just say the things that everybody knows, the things that you could read in 10 seconds on the internet, or you just know by having seen a store. You want to be more impressive than that. So let's look at some facts that you can actually take to your interview that will help impress them with your research. So the first thing you say is that Five Guys fundamentally is a fast casual restaurant chain. That is what their business is. They focus on higher quality. So they are slightly at the higher end of the market. They're not presenting themselves as a luxury brand. They are very affordable and accessible, but they are really emphasizing really great quality. They're supposed to be better than their competitors. They specialize in hamburgers, hot dogs, and French fries. That's their key business, but they do have a wider offering, so make sure you know the menu. But that's the basic things that they are focused on. You can also say that they emphasize that nothing is frozen. They're not buying in lots of frozen food and just warming it up and selling it. That doesn't really go with the better quality. And a lot of their advertising has talked about the fact that they don't bring in lots of frozen foods. They cook a lot of things in peanut oil. That's what gives it its very distinctive flavor. They offer lots of customization. People have actually worked out how many different combinations you can make, and it is ridiculous. You can really craft a very, very custom meal, and you get lots and lots of choice there that a lot of customers love. They operate mainly as a franchise, so some of them are corporate-owned stores, but a lot of them are franchise, so you're not necessarily applying to Five Guys. You're actually applying to someone who maybe owns one location, or someone who owns a number of locations, or maybe one country is owned by one company. So it's worth looking at what the current situation is in your country with Five Guys, and if that restaurant is a corporate store or a franchise store. They have expanded internationally. They're not just in the US, they've expanded to lots and lots of different countries, and they are growing very quickly. They were founded originally all the way back in 1986 with their first store. The Five Guys originally came from the founding couple, so specifically the father Jerry and his four sons. That was the original Five Guys. However, they had another son a few years after founding it, and so the Five Guys is actually their five children. So that's where that Five Guys comes from. It is founded by one family, and so you should be aware of that. And they still are heavily involved in running the company. In fact, all of the Five Guys are actually working at the company currently. The company was set up with a first store in Arlington, Virginia. That's a good fact to know. And another nice fact about the company is that Shaquille O'Neal, one of his big investments, is he owns a very large number of Five Guys stores as a franchisee. So potentially you could be working for one of his franchises. That would be a nice fact to know and to mention at your interview. Another thing I would definitely say you really do need to spend your time on, and they do often care about it in interviews, is make sure you know the history, read the Wikipedia page, and read their website and know their menu. You don't have to know the menu inside out, but just look at a menu and have a good feeling for the sort of things you can buy there. And that's how you ace this question. Let's now look at another important question, which is, can you tell me about yourself? Unsurprisingly, this question is typically asked very close to the beginning of the interview, and it really is a great opportunity for you to explain why you're the right person for the job. And so make sure you plan this one, because a lot of people waste this opportunity. They just say some very general things and you don't get in the things that you want them to hear about you. So a good answer to this really does help you get the job. So you want to start by talking about your experience, then talk about personal qualities, and I'll give you a list of some ones that you can mention that they quite like, and then explain your interest in the role. Why do you actually want to work here? That's a nice way to round off the answer. So you're saying, I have this experience, I've got what you want, and I'm really interested in this job. It's basically how you're answering this. So for experience, you want to talk through your work and school experience. So depending on where you are in your career, if you're just leaving school, you're going to focus on what you learned and what you did at school, and it's going to help you be good at this job. If you've got work experience, explain all the jobs you've had, and what you want to do is really explain how that's going to help you do the job. So you're going to focus on food and customer service first. You don't have to go through your CV in order. Emphasize the most relevant first, and then the least relevant you'll talk less about. But you want to talk more about what's going to help you do the job. And then any qualifications that you've got, it's a good chance to mention that to show that you've got some good qualifications and that you've done some learning. Then for qualities, you want to say I'm highly reliable, very important, highly professional, that I work well with others, and that I strive to provide excellent customer service. So this is your personal qualities. These are some great ones to use in your interview. Then you have to explain your interest in the role. So you could say things like that I align very well with the Five Guys values, and I'll tell you what those values are, and it's a good idea to memorize those and have those ready for your interview. That you're looking to work for a family company. You'd rather work for a family-owned company than a more corporate company, because it changes the culture of the company, and that's a really positive thing for you. That you love the Five Guys brand. Is this somewhere that you've ate at in the past? You really enjoy their food and you think they're really great? Say that. If you're really positive about the brand, that's a good thing to mention in your interview. And if you've worked in a restaurant previously, or you think you would really enjoy working in a restaurant, say that you expect or you have in the past really enjoyed working in restaurants. And that's how you answer this question. So it's experience, focusing on showing them that you've got the experience to do the job. Qualities about what they're actually looking for and you've got it, and then explain why this is a really great job for you to take. Then about your values, so the values of Five Guys that you want to mention in the interview or be aware of and perhaps memorize is integrity, get it done, enthusiastic, competitive, and family. And if you know those and can mention those in your interview, it really shows that you've done some good preparation and you really know about the company and you'd be a better fit in their company. Let's now move on to your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. They often ask this, and you want to have one ready to go, and I'll give you some suggestions about what you can say. So For your strength, you pick an important strength, something that actually really does make a difference, that you can back up with an example. So you could say that you've used this in the past, or give an example of a time where you've shown this strength, or if it's a qualification, you can actually bring that qualification with you. Some evidence makes it a much stronger answer. And then make sure it's relevant to Five Guys. Don't give a strength that isn't going to have any effect on your job. Give a strength that's actually going to make you better at doing the job. This is then how you answer it. You say, I believe that one of my major strengths is, say what the strength is. In the past, I've used this strength to explain an example of when you've actually used that strength, and then say, at Five Guys, this will help me too, and explain how you're going to use this strength and link it to the company, because you're basically saying, I've got this strength and I'm going to be better at my job because of it. Some ideas that you could talk about is customer service experience, team working, if you've got a strong work ethic, or you're good at multitasking. These are some nice ones to take to your interview and are very relevant to working in a fast food store. So pick a good strength that you've got and plan it around this system, and you'll do well on this question. Then we've got the next question, what is your greatest weakness? And this is one you don't want to make up on the spot. Have a weakness ready and make sure you follow my rules on doing it. So no fake weaknesses. So don't say something like, I'm a total perfectionist and always set very high standards, because that's not really a weakness. It's not going to be taken very seriously, and it shows you haven't really thought about it and you're trying just to cheat them through the question. Then you want to say you're actually doing something about it. So what are you actually doing to get over this weakness? And then you want to make sure it's something that Five Guys actually don't care about, that doesn't really make any difference to your ability to do the job. So obviously don't say, I have foul body odor that's offensive to customers, because if you say that, you're not getting the job. Then what you want to do is to answer it in this way. So you say, one weakness which I am aware of is, say the weakness, don't talk about it in great detail, just say what it is. And then to overcome this weakness, I will, what are you going to do about it? And talk more about what you're going to do about it and less about what it is. Don't present it as a big problem, just say it's something that you're working on and you hope to improve. Some ideas you could mention, and you ought to be careful about selecting it. One of them is delegation. If you're not applying for management, you're unlikely to be involved in delegating. Someone else will do that. That's something that you can talk about working on for your future career, but isn't a problem now. If you find it very difficult to spell complex words, and you can spell the basics, you can write something very simple, but if you've got to use complicated words, you're not great at spelling. That could be a perfectly good weakness, because you're not going to be writing very much. If maths is a problem for you and you're not great at doing math, that's a good weakness to use, because it's unlikely you'll have to use anything more than very basic maths unless you're in very senior management. And then if you only speak English and you're applying to a store in a region where basically everybody speaks English, they don't have, say, a very high Spanish speaking population in that particular area, that is a weakness that you could take, because it's going to be much similar to other people who are applying for the job and won't make you look very negative. But if you are applying in an area with a high non-English speaking population, I would avoid using that weakness. So it is a possible weakness, and it's an easy one to talk about what you're going to do about it, because you could be doing some online course, or you have an ambition to learn a language in future, and that's how you get around that question. So that's how you answer the greatest weakness. Have one ready, and that will really help you in case they ask about it. The next one that they often ask about is, can you tell me about your previous experience? So they want to know about your work experience, and don't just tell them I did this, then this, then this, then this, and then end your answer. That's not going to get you the job, and it's not going to be a really strong answer. Let's think about what they actually want. They want someone that has the right skills. So basically you're explaining to them, I can do this job. I'm being interviewed for this job. I've done it before. I've done all these similar things. I've got all this experience, and I'll be great at the job. That's what you're trying to do. Then no negatives. So if they ask about career history, like why did you leave this job? Why did you leave that job? Having an answer ready really helps with that. They may be digging to see if there's anything negative, which will help them decide to actually employ someone else. So you want to be ready for that. Then if you've got no negatives that they can find, and that you've got the right skills and you can do the job, then you're looking like a good potential hire. Let's look at how you actually answer it. So start with your full job title. Don't give a short title and abbreviate it. Give your actual official job title. Then explain what you did and what you learned. So, say, for example, you're working as a waiter or a waitress. You were responsible for interactions with customers. You dealt with customer complaints. You provided high levels of service. Maybe that was your first ever job and you learned how to interact with customers. You learned about the workings of a restaurant. These are things that you can say. These are great experiences. Any work that you've done, you will have learned things. Talk about what you actually learned, because someone who knows what they've learned takes learning much more seriously and is probably going to be a better employee. Then you can have a good reason for leaving ready. Never say anything negative about a previous employer or manager ever. It's one of the worst things you can ever do in an interview. Always be positive about your previous jobs. If you hated your previous job, don't say that. Really focus on the things that you learned or any positives about that job rather than saying the negatives. Just basically ignore all the negatives. You don't want to hear about it. It's going to harm your chance of getting the job. And then the most important thing is to link everything back to Five Guys. So when you explain what your jobs were, then say how that job's going to make you better at working at Five Guys, and that's going to help you get the job. Then some tips for success is you want to say what they want to hear. They want to hear that you've got experience that's going to help you be good at the job, and that they really just want you to show that you can actually do this job well. It's easier for them to take someone who's got previous experience that's relevant and has had a successful career in other places than it is to train someone up from new. That's why they're asking about this. If you don't have experience, that's fine. You can talk about your schooling and other experiences you had sporting or perhaps voluntary work, and you can get through this question. If you do have no experience, they probably won't ask this question, so you might not need to worry about it as much. Before we finish, here are some great questions that you can ask at the end of your Five Guys interview. So often they will say at the end of an interview, do you have any questions for me? And if you say no, that's very bad. So let's have some questions ready. So one question you might want to ask, and you probably want to know it anyway, is can you please explain the next steps in the hiring process at Five Guys? And then they'll tell you when you'll find out if you've got the job, if you'll get feedback, these sort of things. You probably want to know that anyway. You could say, what do you enjoy most about working at Five Guys? And when they say what they really like about working there, you can explain that you would really enjoy that and you can be really enthusiastic and positive about it. Then you could say, what would you say sets Five Guys apart from the competition? And you can explain that this is part of the reason why you've applied. So they'll say the things that's special about Five Guys and that's different, and you can be really positive and interested in that and use that to link to your motivation for applying there. You could say, what are the characteristics of exceptional Five Guys employees? You know, what does it take to be really successful here? What do really good employees do? And you can link that to your experiences and what you aim to achieve. And then one question you may want to ask on the day. So if they say something interesting and you wonder about it, now could be a good time to ask it. But certain things that you don't ask about is never ask about taking holidays, increased pay. There's probably not going to be much scope to negotiate anyway. And then don't ask about transferring to another store. You're applying to this one, you're speaking to the manager or perhaps even the owner of that store, and you're talking about, can I go work somewhere else? I don't want to work here. That's really negative. Don't do it. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Best of luck in your Five Guys interview. If it was helpful, please like and subscribe below. And finally, thank you very much for watching.